Hey there, gang. It's another week on the podcast. And today I'm going to talk about MLM trauma. This is something that I want to tell you a little bit about why your nervous system may shut down, why you might be in freeze, why you might be feeling burnout, and how the network marketing industry is sort of set up for people who've been through trauma and for it to be something that's a new trigger for them. Now, I love the network marketing industry. It is something that has my heart forever. I'm so grateful to the network marketing industry. It has made me a very, very wealthy woman. It has answered all of our prayers. Everything that we ever wanted as a family was made true because of the network marketing industry. But I want to talk a little bit today about something that is just not talked about enough. And that is about how MLMs are an actual dopamine disaster for people who are struggling with trauma. I think it's why so many people are attracted to MLMs when they've gone through really difficult childhoods or maybe even abusive relationships. And there's a couple of reasons for this. Now, it doesn't mean that first of all humans have trauma. So let's just put that out there. There's not big trauma or little trauma. Trauma is universal, and it is something that is part of the human experience. Now, some people have experienced different lived experiences in trauma, whether you've been abused as a child, maybe it was emotional abuse, physical abuse, maybe you're in an abusive marriage, maybe you have never felt loved. There are 4 inner child core wounds that everyone deals with as a human being. You are unlovable, you are not important, you are not good enough. And oh my gosh, all of a sudden I'm like, wait, why has it evaded me? I have little cards here. I'm going to pull them out, you guys. Oh my gosh, this is so hilarious. Okay. I'm such a visual person that it's just easier for me to show you on the visual here. Okay. So I am not important. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, there's pictures here for you. I am unlovable. I am worthless. That was the one I couldn't remember. And I am not good enough. These are universal for all human beings. And as I'm reading these cards aloud to you, there's probably one or two, maybe 3, maybe all 4 that you are identifying more with, just a little bit, so you can understand where this is coming from. After going through severe complex post-traumatic stress disorder from a work event that occurred several years ago, I decided not only to just get lots and lots of therapy, but also after I did some healing with a therapist after being diagnosed with CPTSD. You can Google what that is and the things that I was experiencing, but it was a special kind of hell. And during that healing process, I felt this urge to go and get my trauma certification. And so I have certifications in specific trauma-informed certifications. And then I have an additional accreditation that is in narcissistic abuse recovery. And my personal Instagram account, I started turning into just a voice for survivors after trauma, because I wanted to send a message out into the world that you can have success after trauma, that what happens to you doesn't have to be this death sentence where you're stuck or you have to just go through the motions, because a life without passion is horrible. So when I share some of these things with you today about trauma in the MLM space, I'm sharing it from accreditations and certifications that took me years and years to receive, and then also my own lived experience with trauma, a portion of it. There's lots of parts of my journey that I don't publicly or privately share, but I hope that the knowledge that I've been able to get will help explain to you so that you feel like something is off. You feel like in your gut that like something's not right. I hope that on today's podcast that I can share a little bit of knowledge with you that will help give you some understanding and clarity in whatever it is that you're struggling with. If there's ever a time where you feel like you need some help, you can reach out on my personal account, Emily Gibson & Co. And you can also watch all my reels there where I give away tons and tons of free stuff for people in the trauma community who are trying to heal. That one is in addition to my business account, which is Beyond the Rank & Co., where I just specifically talk to network marketers. Okay, so when you look at these 4 inner child core wounds, I want you to think like, which ones stand out most to you? I am not good enough. I am worthless. Oh, and let me read some of the things that maybe it'll help you. So if you're identifying with I am not good enough, you probably feel unsafe, guilty, trapped, worry, shame, failure, abandonment, and fear. For I am worthless, the inner child core wound, I am worthless, it is guilt, shame, betrayal, unsafe, trapped, no value, worry, and fear. For I am unlovable, this is the next 2 are the ones that I always identify with. These are the 2 for me. I am unlovable and I am not important. Anytime where I'm triggered or something traumatic happens, these are always the core belief for my inner child core wounds that always come out. And it's different for everyone. So for this one, shame, mistrust, worry, rejection, trapped, fear, unsafe, guilty, that's I am unlovable. So anything that happens to me, anything where, if I don't get asked to do something, or if someone doesn't want to be my friend anymore, or if something happens in a business, for me, it always comes down to, oh, see, I'm not lovable. See, here's more evidence and proof that I'm just not lovable. And it's not true, but for my lived experience, it feels very real. And for your lived experiences, these things are going to feel very real as well. And then the last one, I'm not important. Again, this is the other one that is one of my core wounds that I am always working on in therapy and with coaches and things like that. So this one, I'm not important, is feeling unwanted, fear, guilty, betrayal, shame, worry, unsafe, and trapped. And you'll notice that a lot of these have the same words on them, but the actual core wound, you'll know which ones yours are because they've been with you for a very long time. So of these 4 things, there's likely 1 or 2 that are sticking out the very most. And so whenever you have something happen in your MLM, some sort of trauma with your upline, with corporate, with your downline, with people that have ordered from you, anytime that your nervous system perceives a threat, it is going to drain the blood from your prefrontal cortex so that you can't screw everything up by thinking about something. It triggers your nervous system response of fight, flight, freeze. And I like to teach the traffic lights of tolerance. This is another thing that I'm certified in. The traffic lights of tolerance are the way that your nervous system in an instant decides how you're going to survive through something really horrible with the outcome of living. And our nervous system oftentimes is really confused about what's going to actually make us die. 9 out of 10 times, you're not actually in imminent danger, but your nervous system is triggered by a nervous system response. Your intuition, the Holy Ghost, whatever you want to call it, is going to say danger, danger, danger. And it's going to release adrenaline and cortisol instantly into your bloodstream. And you're either going to go into fight, flight, freeze, or the 4th trauma response, which I see a lot in MLM trauma, fawn. Fawn is people pleasing, and it's not to do with your personality. This is what's mostly misunderstood. People will say, oh, I'm a fighter, I'm a flighter, I'm a freezer, I'm a fawner. It's actually not a personality thing. The way that you respond to a perceived threat is a nervous system, almost like machine automated response. It literally turns off your personality and your instincts take over, and they decide in a split second, what's the best way we're not going to die right now? And that is the one that it picks: fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So anytime that there is a perceived threat, your nervous system is going to engage. And the reason why MLMs can be this other layer of absolute hell for people who are experiencing trauma, who have experienced trauma, is because when you join an MLM and you rank up, they're posting your graphic. Sometimes you're winning trips really early on. You're getting cars, you're getting money, you're getting awards, people are showering you with gifts. And if this were like a narcissistic abusive relationship, this would be called love bombing. I'm not saying that companies are love bombing you. I'm not saying that. Like they're doing this because network marketing is sales. And in the best way to motivate salespeople is to give them things that they can measure their achievements with, in addition to the money that they're earning for selling your product. But just so you can kind of understand what happens in your brain when you join an MLM and you're experiencing trauma or you have experienced trauma, is your brain starts to release dopamine. It's the pleasure hormone. So if you've grown up feeling like you are worthless, right, or not enough, or unlovable, or not important, then when someone posts your rank up graphic, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, this is like what I've been searching for my whole entire life. And it's going to fill that void. And it's going to, your brain is going to confuse dopamine for oxytocin. Oxytocin is the love hormone. And so everyone is like praising you. Oh my gosh, you're doing so good. You're so amazing. This is so awesome. And your brain you think you're receiving oxytocin, but it's not. It's actually dopamine most of the time. Of course, I'm not here to say like what hormones your brain is releasing. It's likely oxytocin in the beginning, and then as time goes on and things start to happen, it can switch to dopamine. But I want to just explain the hormones that are released inside of your body so that you can understand why it's so common to be trauma bonded to your MLM, why it's possible that you could be trauma bonded to your upline, to your company. And it doesn't mean you have to leave it. It doesn't mean that you have to walk away from it, but it can really help you to understand why you're so tired, why you feel like there's trauma here, why you feel like something might not be right. And so my purpose of creating this episode for you today is for you to help. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is freedom. Knowledge is how you can heal if this is something that you struggle with. And please, if there's someone that you know that maybe is on your team or on another team or another company and you feel like this episode could bless them, please send them the link, because I really, really love helping people with MLM trauma. It's my sweet spot. There's a reason why I don't have a ton of clients in any other area. I just love to help people in the MLM space. And my very, very favorite thing to do is help top leaders who have experienced MLM trauma. That is why I've got all my accreditations. And it turns out that everyone at every level needs help with trauma coaching. So, okay, now, you come into your MLM and you are receiving rank up graphics and money and gifts and trips and cars. And this is going to make dopamine just come out of your brain like hotcakes. And then, that's why after the month is over, sometimes you feel that depression. It's because there's no longer just dopamine pumping out of your brain. And so the reason why MLMs can become toxic in certain situations, I'm not saying that they're toxic. I love MLMs. I'm so obsessed with them and network marketing. And I think that everyone should have a downline in an MLM, and that everyone should sell things that they love in this space, because there's just no other industry that can do for people like me, stay-at-home moms making $0 a month, literally make us multimillionaires. I mean, it's wild. But when you're having that happen, it's a lot of your brain thinking, oh my gosh, that felt so good. That felt so good. That felt so good. And it can become really addictive. And so something that I noticed within myself really early on was that for me, it wasn't that I liked going on the trips. I liked earning the trips. I liked getting the awards on stage. And from the outside, it probably looked like I loved having the spotlight on me or that I loved having attention. But after processing this in therapy for years and years and years, what I found out is that when I was on stage, what I uncovered within myself was that was one of the only times where I would allow myself to think, everyone loves me. Now I can love me. And so it became this, and because I'm so good at being successful, it was just this bar that I was constantly raising. And I still have to work through this, you guys, because I love work and I love to do work. And if you're someone like me, you know exactly what I'm talking about, where work just feels so satisfying and so calming. And again, if you've had trauma in childhood or in your life, there's just something so soothing about feeling successful and having control in those areas. And so sometimes this is why MLMs can be particularly triggering for people who've had trauma. And so when you're getting those rank up, those graphics, and everyone's commenting on it and liking it, then you add this other layer of dopamine that's happening from social media. There's proven research showing that the way that social media, email, that it's been set up to be very addictive to our brain, right? If you've ever read the book Dopamine Nation, proceed with caution. It's very, very graphic with different psychological studies. It's something that I read as part of my trauma accreditation, because it was sort of like going back to school to like get a PhD, sort of like that. But anyway, we had to read some coursework, and that was one of the books. And so it's very, very graphic about like some sexual things, but they do it from a case study. And so if you are uncomfortable reading stuff like that, if psychology is not your jam, then maybe don't read that book. But it's sort of like I think MLMs are like a dopamine nation. And it's why we see so many people who get to the top of the company and they're just so tired and they feel like they're burnt out and they don't know why they can't turn it off. And they feel like it's an addiction that they can't turn off. And you're right. It's because your brain is just constantly pumping out dopamine, because every time that you hit that rank, there's just this surge of dopamine. And then what happens? Everybody likes and comments on your post. And then boom, another surge of dopamine. And then another contest is announced and you win the contest. Boom, dopamine. It's just dopamine, dopamine, dopamine nonstop. Now, I'm not saying that this is everyone's lived experience, but for people who struggle with trauma, oftentimes they are attracted to the MLM space because not only does it fill that void and give you evidence that's different of those core wounds, right? If someone is feeling like I'm not important and they join an MLM and they are put on stages and asked to speak on calls, all of a sudden they are very important and they feel like this is finally filling that child core wound of I am not important. And all of a sudden they're very important, right? Same thing with I am not good enough. If you've never been good enough at things and then all of a sudden you have found success in an MLM, that's going to fill that void for you really, really quick. Same with I am unlovable. If you've always felt unlovable and then all of a sudden you're ranking up, you're winning cars, trips, everything, you're on stage, you're speaking at your company conventions, you are that person, right? All of a sudden, everyone loves you. And that's going to fill that void super, super quick. And same thing with I am worthless. If you've always felt worthless, an MLM is just going to be this like vortex of, oh my gosh, look at her worth. Look at what she's created. Look at her amazing team. Look at how good she is. And so it's really going to, it's going to check all these boxes for you as far as trauma goes. And it doesn't mean that we have to say, oh, MLMs are bad. MLMs are toxic. MLMs are the worst. No, MLMs bring this stuff out in us that we need to take a look at. And so I actually think that what I would love to see, and this is why I'm so passionate about speaking on MLM trauma more and more, is that when you come into an MLM, right, and all these triggers start coming up, this is, if you had never done it, it would have laid like a sleeping giant your whole life. If I had never done an MLM, I would have never done all the trauma work and healing that I did, because so many of the things, all the things that are set up to release dopamine inside of your brain, seeing even like watching points change in your back office, hitting certain volumes of sales, it's just releases dopamine all the time, and it's that pleasure hormone that we seek. It's how we feel when we see people liking and commenting on our posts. It's how we feel when someone sends us a text message and says they're in. Boom, dopamine. It's our brains are programmed and set up in this way. And it's not that the industry creates this horrible vortex for us. It's that the industry gives us this opportunity for to fill some of these childhood wounds, but then also when times are down or things are struggling, or you have things that happen with your team or your upline or corporate, or something that happens with a friend who's ordering from you or quit or does the business with you or quit, it's going to bring up these triggers. And what I hope that I can be in the network marketing space is, if you feel like it, a safe place to land where you can come and you can have someone help you break apart like why you're feeling the way you're feeling, what's going on neurologically, psychologically, emotionally for you, so that you can look at it to see what your brain is doing and why it's doing it, so that you don't have to burn down the whole thing. There may be situations where you decide that that maybe too much has happened, and I have so much respect for that. But whatever it is that you're struggling with, I hope that there's something that I've said in this episode. I mean, I could talk on this for hours and hours and hours, but I hope that there's something that I've shared in this episode that maybe has felt like, oh my gosh, that's why I'm so tired. Because when you are, anytime you feel a threat, right? And you're going to feel when you're going for a rank up, you're going to be in fight or flight just naturally, because you're going to be working. You're going to be like hyper vigilant, checking messages, making sure you haven't left any stone unturned. You're going to be in massive fight or flight, trying to get those orders in, lead your team, manage women, all working. Like, that's just naturally your nervous system is going to perceive a threat, and we want it to, because that is your sympathetic nervous system, that fight flight response. That's how we move things forward. You're not going to move things forward always feeling peaceful and connected. That's where you go back to after the perceived threat is no longer there. But something that comes with that fight flight response, that you will always actively engage in a rank up, in earning a trip, in earning a car, in any of those things, in building a business, right? That sympathetic nervous system, you're going to be releasing adrenaline and cortisol. And so adrenaline and cortisol goes right into your bloodstream, your adrenals pump it out. And it's just like, is for you. Did you need extra superhero power strength? Yes, I did. This is how you stayed up till 2:00 in the morning. This is how you worked, got up early. It's how you were able to do things that weren't humanly possible. It's the same thing about if you watch a car accident happen and you have a person lift a car off of another human. That's not normal to be able to have that kind of strength. But you'll notice in certain situations, you'll have more strength than you thought you had. And that's because adrenaline and cortisol go into your bloodstream instantly when you perceive a threat, whether it's fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And you're going to have this hypervigilance. Your senses are more engaged. You're able to hear, see, smell easier. All of these things are heightened. And so when you're in a rank up month and the rank is over, it's also why you're exhausted and end up in burnout. And that's because once the threat is over, once the perceived threat is over, right? You hit the rank, you earn the trip, you get the prize, your nervous system's going to be like, oh, we're done. Cool. We lived, we survived. The threat is over. And now we're going to take away the adrenaline and cortisol, because we're not meant to have that 24/7. And then all of a sudden you're exhausted and you don't know why. And you're just wondering why it's not fun anymore. And it's because you don't understand that your nervous system is totally hooking you up to work hard and achieve your major, amazing goals. And then you go into this almost depression when the adrenaline and cortisol is not there and the dopamine is not there. And you probably don't know how to regulate your emotions. It's not very common to find an adult that is just great at regulating their emotions. And that has to do, there's these amazing studies that they did decades ago where they did research on a nursery of babies that were orphans in Russia. And there was all of this research that came out where they wanted to really test nature versus nurture. And so in this nursery in Russia of these orphans, they were not going to pick them up or cuddle them or ever comfort them when they were crying. And there was this cleaner, this janitor that was supposed to just clean the orphanage in the night. And the cleaner was just so drawn to this one baby. And so every night when nobody else was there, the cleaner would pick up this one baby and cuddle and snuggle and love and talk to and sing to and everything. And they followed all these babies, these orphans, for their whole lives. Every single one of those babies ended up in jail, on drugs, in gangs, or dead, except for one baby. And it was the one baby that the janitor cuddled, snuggled, loved. And the reason why this is just so, like, you probably have chills from head to toe listening to this story. It still makes me cry every time I tell it. It's because it's in our infancy. It's in ages 0 to 5 that we have to learn how to regulate our emotions. And the only people we can learn it from are our parents. Or if you're adopted, your adopted parents, right? Whoever is that parent figure in your life. And so what we're finding is that that there are a lot of children that grow up to be adults that have not learned how to regulate their emotions from their parents. If you didn't learn it from your parents, all is not lost. You can learn it as an adult. You just have to self-teach it. Well, most people are just in this pattern of chaos and trauma that they never learn it. And so if you are someone that's experiencing MLM trauma, you love your MLM, you want to go back to it being fun again, you're in burnout, you're struggling, I hope that you'll come to a live call with me. I do them every Tuesday and Thursday, Tuesday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time, Thursday at noon Mountain Time. You can just go to my my business account at Beyond the Rank and Co. on Instagram, and you can sign up to come to a free masterclass. Come to the call, check me out, see if it's something that you want to see if we vibe. If you are like, I want to learn more. If you are just like, I don't even know if I want to do that or whatever, you can go to my personal account at Emily Gibson and Co., where I talk about trauma, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, why you people please, to try to avoid future abuse. There's just so many other things we could unpack than what I've shared on this episode, but I'm going to end it now because I know this is probably a lot for some of you. And I hope that I can send a big virtual hug to you, that whatever you've gone through, whatever you're struggling with, whatever MLM trauma you've experienced, I hope that this can be a source of knowledge to you so that you can look at yourself and, number one, have awareness. Oh my gosh, that's what's happened to me. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad to finally know that I'm not crazy. Number two, have compassion for yourself. Most people feel this way. Anyone would feel this way. And curiosity. If I wanted to keep going in my MLM, if I wanted to leave, if I wanted to heal, what would that look like? Right? So awareness, compassion, and curiosity. Those are the 3 steps to healing. And if you feel like there's something that I could help you on, I would just love to serve you in this way. And I'll leave you with a big virtual hug from me to you. And just know that you're not alone. and that it's totally normal to go through some of this, especially if you've been wildly successful in an MLM. All right, everybody, have an amazing day. Bye now.